Welcome to the November episode of Amiga Ireland. I'm Irla.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Luke.
In today's episode, Amiga Ireland 2021 is cancelled, but we will aim for getting an online gathering of some kind together.
We talk about some electronic CAD software.
And the new teaser for C64 platform as well.
All that and our usual news, games, discoveries. But first, guys, how have you been?
Yeah, busy as usual. My Solus board is getting nearly complete. That's a board I've been working on that lets you control RGB LED strips from the Amiga. You know, plugs into the clock port and gives you some fans and some temperature sensors and a whole heap of other little things. So I have my prototype boards, and of course they aren't right. So I've been patching them and getting them working, and but now it's nearly ready to go. So been working on that, and I also have Carl Jekyll's Amiga 3000 here that has sadly had some a hefty amount of battery damage. So I've been working on that as well, trying to get that back to working condition. So busy.
Good stuff. Okay, yeah, we need to get Carl back working and coding again. He's been quiet lately.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. I finally got some Amiga time with my daughter. It's been midterm break here, and also we're in the middle of a shutdown, so, you know, kind of a lockdown. We're on level 5 here, so there hasn't been much to do. So the Amiga got powered up finally for the first time in a long time, and we had great crack. We played Naughty Ones and Rodland were her usual requests, and then the deal was that I got to pick some games as well, and we played Lotus 2, Midnight Resistance, and then Mortal Kombat. And guys, if you have daughters, just show them Sonya Blade, show them the moves, and they'll be absolutely hooked on Mortal Kombat. Mm-hmm. Luke, how have you been?
Just been busy with work, daily work and the RetroReady.1. Apart from that, we're just heading for lockdown, just like the rest of Europe, I think.
Okay, I wish I had tips.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people's tip seems to be to drink, but I can't afford to do that. Also, we've got a special guest with us today. Alex from the Computer Museum of Ireland is with us. Hi, Alex.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me again. It's really fantastic to be here again, really.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for joining us. We interviewed Alex some months back, and you can find the link for that interview here in the show notes too, where we talked about Italy's Amiga scene. How have you been getting on, Alex?
Well, I flew back to Italy to try and avoid lockdown in Ireland, but it turns out I'm self-isolating, having traveled. So during this time, actually, I've been doing some more digging up on the Italian historical Amiga scene since the interview, and I've been hunting down info to enter into the Moby Games database, and I found something about a small Italian publisher called Lindasoft. In the early 90s, Lindasoft released a bunch of games made with the Amos and Stars for the Atari ST, but what they did that others didn't was to also provide the source code of the games, encouraging people to fiddle with it. And they actually built themselves as the School of Game Development back in the day. So yeah, I'm hunting down titles from that company. And it's just great for me to do some more, digital archaeology, as I call it, after all, in the museum.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll have to include a link or two for that as well here in the show notes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, lovely. Well, let's move on to the news. First up, the Computer Museum of Ireland is hosting a basic workshop online on the Commodore 64, and this will be hosted on Zoom. The plan is to introduce a wider audience to the possibilities of using the Commodore 64, and tickets are on sale now at the link in our show notes, so get booking if you'd like to attend. The team putting it together are all involved in the museum in one way or another, and the host is none other than our own Rob Cranley. Fair play, Rob.
Yay.
Thank you on behalf of the museum.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Yeah, it works out well that I've actually got some free time coming up because my wife and son are heading off to Ireland. So yeah, if it was this week, it wouldn't have happened. But yeah, it works out well.
It's lucky for us. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna have to brush up on my C64 because it's like I'm telling you, it's 20 years since I've coded on a C64. But I say 20 years, probably about 30. Oh God.
Oh, is it assembler?
Oh, I'm old. Ask Your Amiga. It's a Wolfram Alpha client for the Amiga. This is, and if you're not familiar with Wolfram Alpha, it's a search engine, but it's they call themselves a computational engine. or isn't that what it? I can't remember. They have a different name for it anyway. But basically, you ask it a question and it answers the question rather than just throwing links at you. So where it can, but this is a very interesting a little client. So it runs on the Amiga and then uses Wolfram Alpha to look up the answers. And so it's a very nice little a little tool to have on your desktop. It's called Ask Your Amiga, or AYA.
New OS4 blog for developers. It's under the blog.amigadeveloper.com, and the first entry is called Introducing Enhancer Software Core, version 1.1. So if you would like to develop for Amiga OS4 and would like some information, please visit it. You might find some useful information there.
And we talk about Wayfarer 2 episodes in a row. For version 1.5 of this web browser just got released. This is a MorphOS specific web browser based on the WebKit engine. Among the new features in this new version is the introduction of a developer toolkit, which is a must for pretty much every browser today. And they went for this open source web console called Aruda. You can find it on GitHub.
Fantastic. A lot of people are going to be happy with that.
They are, to be honest, and I think it's right now it's the most or the quickest developing software if it comes to Amiga World. To be honest, last time we talked about it was version I think 1.1 or 1.0. It's like a month just passed, and we've got 1.5. And I think it's a one-man project. Actually, it's been done by one of the MorphOS developers, Jacek Piszczek, and he's been doing really well. And he's at the same time he's developing also the mail client. I just don't remember the name right now for MorphOS as well.
Iris,
that's the one. Thanks, Rob. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Amiga World, Amiga Ireland 2021 is cancelled. At least the planned event is. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. I know it's such a pity. So if for anybody who has booked provisionally booked flights or provisionally booked a hotel room or anything like that, we're not going to put tickets on sale for that event. Now we will meet online instead for a couple of hours, and we'll make a link available for that at some stage in the future once we get a plan in place. A lot of what we'd kind of planned for on the main stage and stuff wouldn't really translate well to an online kind of stream type of thing, so we will incorporate some of the elements of it, but it will be a different event definitely, but more details of that to follow.
Yeah, definitely worth keeping an eye out for though, because it should be quite a good meetup all the same, being despite being online.
Exactly. I think after the year everybody's had with
absolutely
the virus and stuff, we'll be happy to see each other's faces in one form or another.
Yeah, absolutely, and just have a chat and play some games and stream and just hang out for a while. Okay, now we had Ami West and a little while ago, and there's some pretty significant announcements from all corners of the Amiga community. But we had a talk from Stephen Solly, who was talking about the exec SG, which is the exec for OS4, and how that's being updated and is due to replace the current version. So this we're talking OS 4.2 kind of the plan. But so there's some pretty interesting details came out of that. And despite outward appearances, there is still development going on, and it's good to see there's still something going on.
And more news from Ami West. This time, Dave Haney is back, which is a fantastic news if that's true. And he's designing some Amiga hardware. And Haney apparently is working on the new Buster chip. As far as I remember, The latest revision was Buster 11, and it was said to be the best one, actually. On the same thing, at the same time, individual computers have made continued progress with A1200 Reloaded, which also now includes native HDMI and other things. And that was revealed during AMI West 2020, as Rob mentioned earlier.
Now, Double HD Load 18.6 has been released. Now, this is mainly a bug fix release for what I call the Swiss Army knife of running Amiga games and demos from the hard drive. So it's still part of the main version 18, so I don't suppose there's going to be major compatibility issues, but hopefully a few more options, slightly fewer access faults and installations are to be expected. So really looking forward to it.
And SSH Term has a new release, version 1.8 for OS4, and the features added in this update are blink support, which I'm assuming is the cursor in the terminal, and also an option to select different fonts from the menu.
P96 has been updated, so this is the current incarnation of Picasso 96, which is the software for using graphics cards. So a little while ago, individual computers took over ownership of that, but it got renamed for various reasons to P96, and now version 3 has been released, which is it was given a new version number for because there were some significant changes under the hood and in functionality terms. So the big, along with a whole heap of fixes for lots of different hardware, as well as from the core API and stuff. And one of the big things is that now it supports screen dragging. So P96 or Picasso 96 on OS3 didn't support screen dragging, and now it does with some limitations, let's say. So it only supports 2 screens at a time, and they have to be basically the same. They have to have basically the same properties, because it's a limitation of how the graphics chips work on the graphics cards. But to do that, additional functionality has been included, and all the drivers in the P96 package have been updated to take advantage of this. And so that's free to download as well if you've bought P96 in the last 12 months, or it's a pay what you want download if you if you haven't. And that's, I think the minimum is a €10 charge or £10 charge. But basically it's not a huge amount of money for quite a significant bit of software.
Great stuff. Great job. Right, a little of an application, a shell application called Party Copy. It's an application to copy disk partitions to a file for backup and restore, and it's available on Aminet as usual.
Amiga Addict is a new UK-based magazine taking pre-orders at the moment. They need just 500 orders to justify printing their first issue, and the last time I checked, they're not far off it. The editor is Jonah Naylor, and the staff include Ravi Abbott and Ian Griffiths, who we would know from Amiga Ireland if you've been with us. So best of luck to them with that. And they're also looking for contributors, by the way, so if you're interested in writing for the magazine, maybe get in touch with them.
Right, you can also listen to our interview about Italy's Amiga scene with Alex on our website, and that's amigausers.ie.
And finally, Device Loaded has just been uploaded to Aminet, and this allows your application to check if a device is loaded or not. It really is that simple, as Alan Partridge would say. It allows you to specify any device name. It'll return a warning if it couldn't be found. And it also has a quiet output for scripts, so that it doesn't break your scripts. And it also means you can use it in scripts, which is nice. And that is the end of the news section. Let's go on to the games. Wiz, Quest for the Magic Lantern goes on sale this November 7th. This was made by the creators of the excellent Tin Toy Adventure. You can read about its creation and reserve your own copy at amigaguru.com.
Super Metal Hero is a platform game being coded in Blitz Basic, and it looks great now. It's for AGA Amigas. It's currently aimed at a stock A1200, but it's sort of it's being worked on slowly as a project by one of the guys in the Bliss Basic user group on Facebook. And every so often we get screenshots or a little video of it running, and it's really looks fantastic. It's making lots of rich colors. It's totally smooth AGA background gradients and all the kind of stuff you'd expect from a sort of a let's say a high-end stock Amiga game. But so still a long way to go on it game-wise, but it's definitely looking promising.
Right, and another great platformer, but this time for C64, a game called Pics Quest gets another teaser trailer. The game is a brilliant platformer. It brings immediately to my mind a comparison with the greatest C64 platformers like Creatures 2 or Mayhem in Monsterland, or recently released Sam's Journey. Can you see the similarities in title? Pics Quest, Sam's Journey. Mm-hmm. The graphics is absolutely amazing. The music is fabulous, and it's just uses a lot of C64 tricks. So I really look forward to playing this one.
We move to another genre, which is actually my favorite action game genre. So, Metro Siege is a traditional brawler currently under development, and it has currently progressed from the development point of view to almost completing level 2. Now, for a little bit of recent history on that, this is a game that in the author's intentions will be a homage to Streets of Rage 2 primarily and Final Fight on classic Amigas. And specifically, level 2 is actually set in a tube, just as if it were a tribute to the level 2 of Final Fight. Now, most updates about the game are being released to project backers only, so I'm not really at liberty to discuss anything, but from what I can tell you and from what can be seen from the public updates, I can confirm that there's lots of attention to detail being given to the project. On the technical side, definitely, even from nice touches such as, say, dynamically adjusting the color palette as if simulating the effect of the train approaching with the lights, to also some gameplay tweaks. Now, whether this will result in a great game, that's down to how they will implement stuff like hit detection, combo system, enemy AI, and all that. We will know once released, but I can be fairly confident that the intent of making a great game that of the genre that the Amiga never really had is there.
That's great. And what will this work on classic Amiga, Alex? Sorry, did you say, or is it for a different? Is it for OS4 or Vampire?
It's expected to work on the standard expanded A500.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And just uploaded to AmiNet is Bessie Jump, which is a Doodle Jump clone for the 68K Amiga. It's very nicely done. The game uses code from Graham Humphrey's Downfall, and the graphics are lovely. There's actually an Amiga Boing Ball in it with an animated puppy bouncing on it. It's cleverly done. And although I only attempted to play it once to test, I actually played it for quite a while, so it's a good game, definitely worth checking out. And the ADF is available on AmiNet.
Okay, and the Orquan Masters gets a new release candidate on PPC Amigas after 7 years since the last release candidate. Now, the name Orquan should resonate with anyone who has played Star Control. Indeed, the Orquan Masters is a fork of the 3DO version of Star Control 2, which was donated open source years ago. And, Star Control 2 had never really been ported to the Amiga. Now, the Star Control series has been at the center of controversy over the past couple of years, mainly because of a legal battle between Stardock and original makers Toys for Bob over brand ownership and the right to make new games in the series. Stardock made Star Control Origins in 2018, and the original developers promised a new game in development of their own. Now, the 3DO version of Star Control 2, however, was arguably the most beloved one, nonetheless. So it's great to have an update of it on PowerPC powered Amigas.
Fantastic! I actually remember playing that game on Linux years back. It was so immersive, very very good game. I didn't realize it was available for Amiga, but I should have known.
Yeah, we only had Star Patrol 1 back then in the market.
And also released on Aminet is Mr. Poker, a workbench game with keyboard controls so you could play poker. And although the name might suggest that there is a Mr. in there somewhere, there is no graphics of people, clothed or otherwise. It's just the card game. And this is a new update, but the changes aren't actually noted in the README, so I can't tell you what's been added, but I can tell you that it works well and it's actually a nice game.
And finally, some Dodgy Rocks related news. Our current champion on the Amiga version of Dodgy Rocks is Walcro, who has 5,000 points, which is frankly ridiculous. It's a very, very impressive showing there. But yeah, the latest version of Dodgy Rocks has been released, and that's version 1.1, and it includes a special checksum code. So when you get a high score, you get this code, and you can go to the Dodgy Rocks website, put in the code, and whatever level you got to, and your skill setting, and it will verify it through the code and enter you into the international worldwide online top score table. So so the current champion's at around 5,000 points, which is unbelievable. I think I got up in the high hundreds. That's as far as I got. So this is a seriously impressive showing.
Yeah, how many push-ups do you have to do before you start training to get 500 points?
I don't know. That's crazy.
And actually, another really high score that came in was from Walkero's son, Aris Amiga. So congrats to both of you.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, let's move on to discoveries. First up, retroradionics.co.uk are selling high-quality DB9 joysticks. And hat tip to Vector Funk for this tip. I will definitely be ordering one of these as a backup. They're gorgeous. Actually, they're so nice they might turn into my main joystick. I'm looking forward to that.
They're definitely nice looking, all right. Now, my discovery this month is not specifically Amiga related, but I've been using it for developing this LED board that I've been working on. But it's an electronic circuit simulator, but it's a free online one, and it runs in your browser. It runs in Chrome anyway. I haven't tried it on anything else, and but it's incredible because it's very powerful. It has a lot of advanced features, but at the same time, it's very, very easy to use. And it's kind of, it encourages you to just try stuff and swap bits in and out, and has loads of example circuits built in, and it has nice animated dots for showing you your current flow, and it's just incredibly well done. When I was using Spice, which is the kind of the standard go-to, and it's a bit clunky to use, and it's very powerful, obviously, but especially when I started using it back 20 years ago, it was there's an awful lot of editing scripts and stuff like that. But this is just all point and click and drag and stretch things and move things, and it's all animated, all very nice. You can have all your little graphs running side by side. It's just fantastic. And there's a whole the link is there, but if you go to the main page, there's a whole other there's a whole list of physics simulators, of wave simulators, antenna simulators, all this kind of stuff. That this guy's has developed, and they're all there free to use. It's amazing.
Yeah, my discovery this month actually relates indirectly to the news about Metro Siege. So it's called Fixing Amiga Final Fight, and it's a blog article from 2016 that performed a hindsight analysis on how the gameplay of the Amiga port of Final Fight from 1991 could have been adjusted to improve the gameplay without real tremendous impact on resource consumption. Now, this is, in the author's own words, what he called the most pointless article that could possibly be written, but it was really an intriguing read for me, actually, because I'm really fond of the genre. Now, the Amiga Final Fight was a rather controversial port when it came out, because it was defended by many because of the great work by one-man developer Rich Ratlin on ripping the sprites. He actually found a way to rip the sprites off the PCB, and reproducing them and moving them on the Amiga. It was amazing what it did. The port was also criticized, however, because that all that tremendous work on the sprites left very little time on tuning the gameplay. And Final Fight was actually the success it was also because of the great engineering work that was behind it. It was not just a button mashing affair. There's a lot of fine tuning and engineering on things like stun moves, panic moves, grabs, and combos. This is all stuff that I'm really hoping for the developers of Metro Siege to take heed of, because I really cannot forgive yet another brawler going even slightly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fair enough.
The Amiga just hasn't had enough of that.
Yeah, I think Final Fight I played on the Commodore 64 first, and it was amazing to have it because obviously it cost whatever it cost at the arcades. But yeah, it was a tough game. I remember just getting frustrated with not being able to get past a certain point. You can't just keep dumping coins in and continuing. You have to actually be good at the game. So I haven't played the Amiga version though. I wonder how they compare.
Your mileage may vary. Let's say it's a pleasant experience nonetheless. It does run smoothly. It's just a question of whether you're expecting Final Fight in the minutiae that actually were very important, that made the game what it was. Because the same also applies to Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, those details are important because like most games are the same. Like it's a platformer or it's a strategy or it's isometric or it's a fighting game or a shoot 'em up. Like so, like it takes a lot of that nuance and details to give it its character to make it unique and enjoyable to play even. So yeah, I agree. My discovery is that Blobs was created in BASIC on Amiga. That I've been playing that for a couple of days. I just launched it kind of by accident, just on a whim. I was going through the games list here, and I was on B. And I absolutely love it. It's like Lemmings in a way, but it's just a bit. It's a bit less taxing, a bit more fun. The graphics are much more modern and fresh. And I'm not saying it's better than Lemmings or anything like that, but it's definitely a lovely game and worth checking out. But it was made on BASIC on Amiga. It's fantastic, fantastic game. They use some 3D rendered graphics inside it. They have lovely backgrounds with a slightly parallax effect going on some of the levels, and it's just a lovely game. I'm really surprised it was made in BASIC.
Oh wow, great! Did you find out what dialect of BASIC it was? Whether it was AMOS or Amiga BASIC?
I didn't, but what I was doing was there was a level that wouldn't load on the discs I have. There's just one level that would just crash. So I looked up the game A Long Play on YouTube to see if I could get the code for that level just to bypass it, and which worked fine. And then down in the comments, I saw that the developer of the game in the comments talking about developing the game. So so he just talked about making it in BASIC. I don't know which one, but it was very interesting. He was talking about how he did this game on a CRT television, and there's an overscan area that hides stuff like artifacts, but on computer monitors on some of the levels there's actually some kind of noise and graphical noise on the tops and bottoms. So he was explaining to the person who put the video up that was the reason for it, which I thought was brilliant.
It's actually surprisingly common. You get that a lot in games that are they're targeted at a monitor and were developed on a CRT as well. And it's all of a sudden you play it on an emulator or with a scan doubler or something like that, and you've got what's all this rubbish? You got garbage, just like one column of garbage at the end of the screen or something like that. Like that happens on. I've noticed that in a few Atari games. 8-bit Atari games that are. That I played as a kid, and all of a sudden it's got this, it's clearly like a drawing buffer, but it's just totally out of sync with the rest of the screen, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, because when you're on your little TV, it's hidden off the side. But yeah, it's a well-known technique, on even on some high-end commercial stuff.
That's really interesting. Who knows? We might even talk to him at some stage.
Yeah, you never know.
I'm sorry, I've forgotten their name now. And finally, in Discoveries, Vector's demo group had a reunion in 2019, and now Trixie from that group is blogging again. So the blog is rearwindow.cz, and the reason I bring it up is that it's just a really good, well-written blog. At this reunion, which is the latest blog post, a point came where it was decided, let's write a demo again. So they created a new one called Mind Surfing. It's excellent. And Trixie does a really good blog kind of detailing getting acquainted with the tools again on Amiga. So it's all kind of written in a humorous and interesting way, and he plans to keep the blog updated. So add it to your bookmarks or your RSS feed. And welcome back to the Vectors demo group. Okay, let's move on to Ask Amiga.
All right, so following on from what I was talking about earlier about the electronic simulation software, I just wanted to talk a little bit about electronic CAD packages. Now, currently there are a couple of big players. There are some pretty heavyweight commercial ones, and then you've got the likes of Eagle, which has a sort of a free license for small boards, and KiCad, which is a common one for which is an open source one and is very powerful, but has its funky user experience issues. But anyways, there have been a few packages on the Amiga though, and there was a commercial one called ProNet, and it went hand in hand with the package Pro Board, I think, or Pro PCB, and basically with all electronic CAD packages, they sort of work in two parts, and you've got your schematic capture, it's called, where you draw the circuit as the theoretical circuit, and then once you have that completed, that gets transferred into the PCB design software, where you draw out the actual traces on the board. And when you do the circuit first, it means that when you're drawing the traces, you can kind of see what needs to be done, and it works. It works well in that way, and pretty much all the CAD packages I know work in that way. But I never actually used ProBoard or ProNet on the Amiga, but it was one of these it was actually quite an expensive package at the time, and apparently it was used for developing a couple of Zorro boards. So it's certainly capable of doing serious work. So I'll definitely have to check them out. But what I did use back in the day was Ami PCB and AmiCAD, and I developed several boards on them, including the first of the clock port splitters that are quite common now. And so that is a free software, and that cropped up on AmiNet, sort of the late 90s, and it was kind of one of the it actually works well on the Amiga and takes advantage of bigger screen modes and stuff like that. And it's got a clunky interface, let's say, but it's definitely, again, quite capable, and it has a wide library of parts, and you can't really edit the parts or make new parts yourself as such, but there's plenty enough in there to use. And it also, through AREX, supports Ami PCB, which is by the same author, so you can transfer what's called a netlist, which it describes the circuit layout, and you can transfer that into the PCB software, and then trace your actual copper traces and have that as your finished board. Now, the only problem with this, and that's all perfectly usable, and it's actually really, really, you can develop boards with it. I have developed boards with it. The problem is that it doesn't output Gerbers as it stands. So, and they're the sort of the file format that you use to submit to a board house somewhere and get them to professionally make your board. So instead, it outputs a sort of a PostScript, so you can print it on a nice printer onto a transparency and use some photoresist boards and etch the copper at home. That was the old way of doing prototypes before you could get like cheap and cheerful boards from China. And it was not dissimilar from developing your own photographs. It was like messy, lots of chemicals involved, all very nasty stuff, and took hours. But ultimately, you'd have your own circuit board that you made pretty much from scratch. So you buy the blank boards, you print out your output from Ami PCB, you expose them to UV light, then you put them in the copper tank and in the etch tank, and then you've got your board. And that it actually works as a flow, works quite well. But with the AREX port, it might be possible to create Gerbers. It's something I might look into if I ever have a spare minute to myself. But so it's on the long term list. But it's quite usable on Amigas. There's an OS4 version as well. That I remember having some issue with the interface, and so the 68K version actually works just fine on a reasonably fast classic. But as well as that, there is a port of Spice that I was talking about, which is a circuit simulator. And even though it's a bit clunky and you're dealing with a lot of text files, and it's kind of it's a bit raw, but you can still, through AREX, you can export your circuit from AmiCAD and run some Spice simulations on it using they had a special library of parts that you use, and you can then sort of basically let Spice churn away, and what happens is you get a text output of what your circuit's doing, so you can see what the voltages are at certain nodes, and load that into like a spreadsheet, let's say, and you can plot them against time and things like that, and so you can do some quite elaborate stuff that way. But it's actually impressive what you can do on considering it's considering how out of date the Amiga is, let's say, but considering how old this software is. Even AmiCAD, it's been updated recently, but ultimately it's 25-year-old software. And ProNet and ProBoard are even older, so they're a bit clunky, but still very, very capable if you can work with that particular workflow.
Very good.
Great.
So, if somebody wanted to start making a PCB themselves, Rob, even for something really, really simple, would you recommend that as a starting point?
It's tricky because arguably something like Eagle is a bit easier to get into, and there are some online ones that are kind of like drag and drop that work quite well for simple stuff, and to learn the principles, that kind of thing is possibly the easiest. I can't remember the name of the one, but there's one that's
KiCad maybe
KiCad or KiCad.
KiCad, sorry,
is it's not really what I'm thinking of at all. That's what I use for my main stuff, but it's clunky, and it's the least bad option, let's say. But there are drag and drop ones that are they're associated with some of the electronic suppliers like Element 14 and stuff, and I think they have an online, an association with one of the online things, and for complicated stuff it's no good, but for simple circuits that's the way to learn, and you can drag and drop stuff and it works quite well. The simulation side I was talking about, the Falstad site earlier, is great for the purely electronics end of it, just for the theoretical stuff. But I don't think I think the online those kind of modeling things are probably the simplest way to do it. Even with the modern packages like KiCad and Eagle, you need to have a bit of a grasp of what you're trying to do, because if you just launch into it and say, yeah, I'm going to design this, it's like firing up Blender and saying, yeah, I'm going to create a realistic human in it, and you're like, okay, well, I can do a cube and I can do a cylinder, and what next? Where do I put the face? It's very, very expansive software, and it's difficult. It's got a steep learning curve. So the Amiga stuff is probably not much worse than that, to be honest. Like the principles are basically the same, and if you know what you're going to do, as in the circuit and roughly the layout of the board, you can do it, and it's probably as good a place to start as any. But it's no harm in trying it out anyways. AmiCAD and AmiPCB, they're on AmiNet, and have a play with them.
Okay, lovely. Right, well, that's pretty much it for today. Just to say thanks to everybody who has followed us online or joined our groups or been in contact. It's nice to have you all on board. And we will talk to you again next month. And also big thanks to Alessandro for joining us this month. It's nice to have you, Alex.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
Okay, until next time.
Music was by Virtual Dimensions and by your guy Ollie.
I want to get in touch with us. You can get us on social media or email info@amigausers.ie.
And this episode was edited by Anthony Jarvis.
And the song of the month this month is Jason Brooks' Space Harrier, arranged this time by Peter Clark.
Bye-bye.
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 Welcome to the fantasy zone. Get ready.
Welcome to the fantasy zone.
The graphics are lovely, and although I'm getting distracted, I thought that was my printer going off here
No,
in my
it's
headphones.
mine.
That's usually prints a page in the middle of the podcast when I'm talking. Like, okay, she's off the hook this time.